boys and girls. We hope that you're having a great time getting ready to celebrate Thanksgiving. And in honor of Thanksgiving, we have a special story to read with you. It's called The Story of the Pilgrims. It's written by Catherine Ross and illustrated by Caroline Kroll. And look how amazing. I'm excited to read this story. Doesn't it look good? We got the pilgrims right there. We have an Indian. Let's find out what happens and why we celebrate Thanksgiving. It says, once upon a time in the land of England, there lived a small group of people called pilgrims. The pilgrims were unhappy because the King of England would not let them worship God in their own way. Aren't you thankful that we live somewhere where we're able to worship God and we're able to serve Jesus? But we see right here the pilgrims, they're unhappy because they didn't get to do that. So the pilgrims packed up their belongings and said a tearful goodbye to their homes, their friends, and the world that they knew. On a mild day in autumn, they set sail for a new world called America, which was across the wide ocean. Other families came along. Together, they hoped to find freedom and a better life. Wow, look at that. That must have taken a lot of bravery for them to say goodbye to everything that they knew, all their friends, all their family, and they went in these big boats across the ocean. More than 100 people squeezed into a small wooden sailing ship called the Mayflower. 22 of the pilgrims were children. For their journey, they brought with them only the simplest foods, things like cheese, bread, dried beans, and salted meat. Wow, there are so many children, just like you guys, children on this boat going across the ocean. Day after day, the pilgrims saw nothing but the endless ocean and sky. Now and then, the huge slippery body of a whale would break the surface of the water. Wow, can you imagine that? What if you would have seen a whale go through the ocean while on this boat? It says, on and on they sailed through calm days and stormy ones, until after 66 days at sea, they heard the words they had been dreaming of for so long. Land ho! Wow, look at that. Look how happy he looks. He finally saw land way out in the distance. Could you imagine if all you saw was ocean, but then you saw some land, how excited you would be? Nearer and nearer to the land they sailed until the water was so shallow they could go no farther. They dropped anchor in a peaceful bowl-shaped harbor rimmed with sparkling white sand. That reminds me of the beaches we have here where we live. Dense woods rose up all around. There are no towns, no houses. There is no sign of people at all. Could you imagine that? No buildings, no Publix, no shopping mall, no Target, nothing at all. It says the pilgrims rowed ashore to explore this wild land so full of mystery and promise. The men were armed with guns. They had heard that America was full of fierce animals and savage Indians. Look at them. They all got off of the boat, but they're going to be careful because they don't know what's in this new land that they're at. They have their guns. They have all their weapons. They're not sure what to expect. After many days of exploring up and down the coast, they found a deep harbor near good farmland. Here they would make their home. They called it Plymouth. While some stood guard against Indians, the others began to build houses. The first was long and low and very plain. They called it the common house, for they would all share it. As each day grew a little colder and a little darker, they worked quickly. Winter was coming. Wow, look at them working so hard. All of them are pitching in. They're all doing their part. Some people would stand guard, but then others would actually build their house. It's like wherever you are today, someone had to build that house that you're living in. And someone, if it's, wherever you live, that apartment building, someone had to put a lot of work into that. That's exactly what the pilgrims did. And a terrible winter it was. Good thing they got the house done in time. Look at all that snow. And a terrible winter it was. There were dark days of bleak and bitter cold, far colder than any cold they had ever known back in England. Snow and sleet and high winds battered the common house, and the little ship anchored in the harbor. The Pilgrims huddled together for warmth, trying to survive on stale food from the long voyage. Many of them became sick and died. Wow, they were running out of food. They were so cold. Have you ever been so cold that maybe you go up to your parents and you say, hug me, cuddle me, I'm so cold. Or you get a fuzzy blanket. You know, that's what they were trying to do. Because look at all that snow. It was very cold. By the time spring came, there were only 50 pilgrims alive, and they were mostly children. What would they do if Indians attacked? Surely they would be too weak to fight back. Could you imagine that, just being a child there? They weren't sure how they could defend themselves from the Indians. Then one day, an Indian did come. The Pilgrims had never seen an Indian this close, and they were terrified. But this Indian had come in peace. His name was Samoset. Look at that. They had been so afraid of the Indians, but actually the Indians were so nice and peaceful. Has that ever happened maybe in our life? Maybe we might be afraid of someone who looks different than us, but we don't have to be afraid because look how peaceful and kind that Indian was. He was going to be a friend to them. A few days later, more Indians marched to their village, 60 of them led by a warrior chief. The Pilgrims and the Indians made a treaty, promising not only to do each other no harm, but also to help each other. They became friends. Don't you like to help your friends? That's exactly what they did. An Indian named Squanto turned out to be a special friend. He taught the Pilgrims many things: where to find the best fish, how to stamp eels out of the mud at low tide, how to find their way safely through the dark forest, and where to find nuts and berries and wild herbs. That's amazing. The Pilgrims are learning all these things they never would have known if it wasn't for the kind Indians who helped them. Look at that. They're not running out of food anymore. They're having more than enough. And Squanto taught the Pilgrims how to plant a wonderful new food. It was called corn. How many of you like corn? I do. Do you like popcorn? We wouldn't even have popcorn if the Indians didn't teach them this. It was called corn. In each seed mound, they buried a small fish to help the corn grow. At the first summer in the New World, the Pilgrims fished and hunted and tended their crops. They built more houses to live in and sheds in which to store their supplies. The children worked and explored and played with their few simple toys. That's amazing. Look at that. Everyone's working together. Wow, they all look really happy now. When autumn came, the Pilgrims rejoiced over their harvest. Bright ears of corn and fat pumpkins, peas, beans, delicious squash and green herbs. They felt so happy about their good fortune that they wanted to celebrate. They said it's time for a party. They knew they could never have survived without the Indians. So the Pilgrims invited the Indians to join them in a feast. 90 Indians came. That's a lot of Indians. For 3 days and nights, the Pilgrims and Indians ate and drank and danced and played games together. That sounds like so much fun. To remember the time so long ago, a time of brave Pilgrims and life-saving Indians, we continue to celebrate the feast. Wow, look at that. This is the very first Thanksgiving. Look at them eating together. They're playing games. They're having so much fun. They're celebrating their friendship. We call it Thanksgiving. So, you know, that, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed that story. And that's what we're getting ready to celebrate together, Thanksgiving. And it's a special time that we can remember everything that we have to be thankful for. Aren't you thankful that people went before us who they were brave, they came to America, the Indians helped them, and now today you have so much to be thankful for. You have a family that loves you, you have friends who love you, and most importantly, we have Jesus, and we are so thankful for Jesus. So remember, as we celebrate Thanksgiving, give thanks to Jesus. Tell Jesus thank you for everything that he's done for you, because he loves you and so do we. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye, guys.